Sumner Accountability Cow, your snout for accountability and transparency in Sumner County, Kansas.
Trying to accomplish, I've always heard politics is like making sausage. Sometimes you don't want to know how it's made. But sometimes it tastes good, sometimes it doesn't. So anyway, we have a lot of issues that they've been dealing with and a lot of issues that we all have to deal with in our day-to-day lives. So I'll turn it over to them and then we'll have a questioning and answering afterwards, and then we'll have the Sumner County Commission people talk a little bit about what they're having for a few minutes after that. First, we'll have, you can choose whichever by rank or rank.
Right.
We're going alphabetically.
We could alphabetically. That's the trouble of being in the Senate. The Senate votes different from the House. The House votes, they got these little buttons over here, and they push the button yes, no, or maybe. I don't know how they do that, but anyway, yes, no, maybe. But in the Senate, it's a voice vote. Alphabetically, roll call.
He's number one.
Yes, you better not be sleeping.
Yeah.
And the other thing, I have voted president several times, and that's not really what you want to be saying. But anyway.
Plus, you can set the tone, make everybody think that they need to follow you.
That's right. That's scary. That's scary. But anyway, you have to pay attention. Well, thank you for being here this evening. We enjoy coming over and visiting with you on the issues. A lot of times these things get turned around and get into a political contest over this or that, and we're here just to tell you what happened up in Topeka and what we think may happen next year. They send us out all kinds of information. I got about 6 pages of bills that affect local government, bills that affect our local school district, so we can go through those if you want. I've got the budget. This is the summary of the budget, not the budget, it's the summary of the budget. We can go over that if you want to know what everything's in there. But basically, this session was 90 days, January to April 10th, and it went quick. It was very quick. We didn't have time really to turn around. We started with a budget when we first came in, and we ended with the budget on the last part of it. So the budget was primarily our main concern this year. And as far as the budget goes, you'll see if you want to study the budget, they say that we're spending more than we're taking in, and they are correct. We're spending more money than we're taking in. However, they're not telling the whole story. Because if we go back 3 years and we look at the bills that we have passed in 3 years and the tax cuts we've passed and given back to the people that really own, that are paying the bills, and that's you, the taxpayer. In the last 3 years, we've returned about $1 billion in taxes back to our taxpayers, which I think that's our main goal we need to be doing. And we are $500 million underwater with our expenditures versus revenue. However, we also have close to $2 billion sitting in a rainy day fund that we didn't have 5 years ago. So we got $2 billion sitting here in case we have a problem that we can use some of that. But we haven't had to, and that continues to basically draw interest for us, which is a good thing. But think about, well, first of all, how many are on Social Security? Well, there's a lot of hands on Social Security. Did you notice anything on your state taxes this year on Social Security? I did, on mine. We returned no tax on Social Security, which made a big difference to our senior citizens. That's great. That's a big number for the state. How about your food sales tax? When you go to your grocery store, 6.5% used to be on your food. Now it's 0. That's another big deal that's coming out. We passed. So, and we can go on and on. We took 1.5 mils off of your property tax, and we took that off. But that was the state building funds to pay maintenance on our state building funds. We took that off I think it was last year. So there's 5 or 6 tax bills that we took off. Money reduced your tax burden, and we put that generally to pay those bills out of our state general fund. Some of the other things that we did, we had state and local government issues. Now, I could go through all of these, but I'm not sure. I'd rather take those as questions and we can answer your questions with what's in here. The other thing that we did that was important, I think, was we made sure that we protected our girls' sports. We made sure we protected make sure that the bathrooms are used to the person that needs to go to that correct bathroom. There's no reason to do what they were wanting to do there and give you the option to go to which bathroom you wanted to. Same way on your driver's license. Say, oh, today I feel like a female, so I'm going to put that on my driver's license, and then complain about it when they take it, when they say no, you can't do that. So, but those are some things that we passed for local government and for the people here. One of the things for schools that I think is important, and that is what they call from bell to bell, no cell. Means no cell phones in schools. When you come in, you check your phone in. When you leave school that day, you check it out. There's a lot more things to do than play with your cell phone while you're in school, and we don't need that. It's a form of intimidation to some of the kids. They get on social media and it gives a big problem. This is a good thing. I think it's going to help our education system and go from there. And I'm going to go I'll go one more on education while we're here. I believe that our education needs to focus, our schools need to focus on excellence. Right now, we're worried, and our schools are worried about how much money we can get, and we'll declare these kids at risk because schools get more money for their at-risk children than they do for the children that are excellent. So we ignored the excellent. And the reason I say that is because when I was on school board in the 1980s, I don't remember exactly what year it was, but they came up with a formula. It was a new formula, and they said the at-risk children would get base salary or base dollars for student, plus a bonus for the at-risk. That bonus at that time was 5% of the base state aid. The gifted children would get half a teacher. So they get a school that gets a half a teacher. That teacher would be responsible for the gifted children in the whole district. One half a teacher. Fast forward to today, the at-risk children get 49% bonus. 49% bonus. So if we're looking at $7,000 a child for base state aid, we're looking at another $3,500 for that. Well, no wonder they want to find at-risk children. How about our gifted children? They still get a half a teacher. I say let's reverse that. If 70% of our kids are at risk, then they're no longer at risk. They're base. So let's bring them to the base and give more money into the excellence programs, the gifted programs, and I'll bet you we'll find more gifted programs. I'll think we'll find more gifted students. We'll find more gifted kids reading at grade levels. We're not reading at grade levels now. So that's one of the things that concerns me. I hope that our education committees and our negotiating groups that are doing that now with our school districts emphasize excellence, because we cannot stand to have 48% of our kids that graduate sitting in mom's basement playing video games, not working like they are today. 48% of our graduates last year are they're not out for work, they're not in school, they're not going to the military. Half of our students are there. We've got to put those kids to work. We've got to get them back into the industry. I was just at an event just this week, and Boeing announced, we're going to put $1 billion into Wichita. We're going to increase the 737 rate to over 70 airplanes a month. They're going to need 6,000 workers. Cessna, Textron announced they need 1,000 workers. And then you got the guys that are retiring, so you got to replace them on top of the new guys. We need all the workers we can get. Our population in Kansas is dwindling down slowly, but it is going down. We need to get those people working and then bring more people in for the jobs. So I'm going to quit now, and I'll wait for your questions. I could go over all this. I could read all this to you. I think it's better to answer your questions. So, everything away.
Well, thank you, Senator Allen. And thank you, Dale, and thank you, Glenn, for hosting this, and for Paul. Where's Paul at? He's disappeared on us. Anyway, I think he got the okay. We got some, I understand he got the building here for us and help us out. But anyway, I'm glad you're here. I do appreciate the way that we do the order of things so much, because I just get to say ditto, and it's all good. As Larry has covered a lot of things, you know. What's the number one issue in Kansas? Does anybody know what the number one citizen issue in Kansas is?
Property tax. Property tax.
How'd you know that?
Because I'm one of them.
That is the number one issue. And so I'm going to get off on a little soapbox that always gets me in trouble. But here's the deal. You remember the last election cycle 2 years ago? You remember the headlines in the papers from the leadership of the House and the Senate? What their number one task was going to be?
Limit property tax increase.
Attacking property taxes and finding a solution to that. And we went 2 years. We did do a little. We passed on your property tax thing. It used to say, state tax X amount of dollars. That's gone now, and so it should be, hopefully. And but other than that, we've not done a whole lot. We passed a little thing at the end of the year, 3% cap, and being able to control things like that, But at the end of the day, when you open your tax bill, your taxes still go up. And I'm against that. I am not for anything that keeps our taxes going up. And so, and Senator Alley very well and eloquently talked about the things that we've done together as the House and the Senate and bills and stuff that we've passed. So looking ahead of what we're going to do, we've got to do something with property taxes. Now, I introduce bills every year, and I have introduced bills every year. One bill was to, it helps. I mean, you can't do the whole thing, which I'd like to do, because I would like to just completely eliminate property taxes and find another way. We end up paying for it, but another way to fund all the things that property taxes fund. So, but I introduced a bill for those 65 years of age and older, veterans, 65 and older, that your property tax is freeze and will become a base rate. And no matter what an appraiser appraises your property at, so like if you had a $300,000 property that's now worth over $1 million, according to the appraiser, then your property taxes still don't rise. They stay at that base rate until the property is sold. Because many that are on a fixed income at 65 years of age and older, they can't afford all these costs. The cost of increased grocery costs, increased health insurance costs, increased house insurance costs, increased costs in everything that we do. And then on top of that, then the appraiser increases the property value. Let me give you an example of out of control appraisers. At public auction, there was a property that sold for $100. Just imagine that. A vacant lot covered with trees sold for $100. So when the people got their property tax appraisal, can you imagine what the appraiser appraised that property tax for? Now keep in mind, there was property in that area, properties in that area, lots with a house on it. Average sale price was $24,000. Okay? That's with a house. 2, 3, 4 bedroom house. Okay? So, can you imagine what the appraiser appraised that property at? Over $12,000. So the people appealed it, and they sent a note back that said, well, no, we're leaving it as it is because it wasn't sold to the public. Well, it was a public auction. I was the auctioneer.
You also have some.
And so anyway, there's a level of frustration in actually fairness and in fair market value of what we talk about as being fair market value is what a seller is willing to accept for their property and what a buyer is willing to give for their property. So currently, fair market value of this particular piece of property is $100. And so there's a real problem. And I have a second bill, and unfortunately these go nowhere. A second bill that required and limited appraisers from appraising properties outside the subdivision that property resides in, or outside in the county, the township that property resides in. Because there's a family in Winfield area out in the county that the appraiser, to find comparables, had to go 93 miles away to Strong City, Kansas, a completely different market, a completely different real estate market arena, and found a comparable and used it to raise their property taxes. And in my opinion, that's wrong and needs to be stopped. And we need to curtail it. And so, if during the next year, I'm going to be bringing legislation again to kind of stop that, again to help our seniors, and once again to help maybe eliminate property taxes completely and find another way in which to fund our property taxes. So that's something that we can look forward to in the next election cycle. I think Representative Riley, who's not speaking here for some reason, and I don't know why, because he represents most of Sumner County. I've got the northern portion. He's below me. He has the lower section. And so, anyway, but he introduces some great bills in regard to the electrical charging tax. That's right, isn't it? And so, he can speak more eloquently to that. But he introduces those bills. I don't think it went anywhere. But there's great bills that come across in the House and the Senate that we need to start moving forward with. We can only get moving that direction if we can probably, keep things with a majority for conservative Christian values. And another thing that's going to change big time this year, the Senate's not changing, but the House is going to change significantly. So we're going to have a new Speaker of the House, a new Speaker pro tem, a new Majority Leader, new whips, new everything. And with that comes a new direction and a new sense of how we're going to do things and what we're going to accomplish. And so that's going to be a big change this year in the House. And so we're hopeful for the best for that, for the best outcome. We're still looking, we can talk about, Senator Alley talked about the $1 billion investment by Boeing and by the other companies needing 1,000 employees. We don't have employees. The state of Kansas is short on employees. So we've got to start looking at what we can do that will attract employees. Part of that's going to be that property tax issue, Part of that's going to be cost of living, the cost of housing. And so we have a lot of multifaceted pieces of information and things that we need to do that are complex and require a lot of thought put into it. And that's what we need to do. I'm hopeful as we look forward going into this new year that we'll start before the new session starts. And I think we are. And you have the codes on your sides, right? Yeah, and that's an entity that's looking at fraud, waste, and abuse in government, So, for example, the federal government was asking for the data for the SNAP program, the SNAP benefits, and how that was being administered and stuff. And because they found, and I think Representative Price said they found over $1 million in fraud or abuse or something like that. And so we need to address those issues. And we need to really get after it. And actually, that all just kind of started the last session. last 2 years. So we've got a lot of stuff in the works, and then we're moving forward on it. You know, another thing with property taxes, you know, is how many times do we pay sales tax on a vehicle?
Amen.
You know, that bugs me, you know? And so that's something that we need to look at and address. There's just so many things. Our roads and people say Kansas roads are really the best, some of the best in the area, you know, 5 states. But there's still things that we need to do. You know, we need the big 4-lane, you know, going on out to western Kansas. We need a couple big 4 lanes. You know, we got 4-lane coming up 75 in Oklahoma, comes up to 75, comes up to Kansas, and then stops there at Caney. And so that 75 goes all the way north into Nebraska. You know, and so we need to get some of these major thoroughfares done, I think. And but our transportation is good. Public safety is a big deal. And a responsible state budget, access to health care. We've got all these issues that we're working on, and we are working on them. It may seem that we're not moving too fast on them, but we are moving on them, and we plan to continue to work on them. And it's my plan, if I'm back up in the House, then there's going to be a lot of bills introduced. And, you know, some of the chairs of the committees are going to change. And so, you know, like my bills are in tax committee, tax committee chairs, you know, but give them credit. They have hundreds of bills coming at them. And they've got to pick and choose which bills go forward and which don't, you know. So I'm going to give them a little grace for that. But in my opinion, the bills that I submitted were really good bills. They really help the citizens of Kansas and of the district I represent, and should have gone somewhere. And but unfortunately they didn't. So I'll stop there. I went on for a while, which I usually do. And but what we want to do is this. Oh, you do?
I didn't address it. I forgot to. Okay. Some of you may have read the Courier a couple weeks ago about there's a group that's wanting to call a special session to bring back the issue of property taxes. I know the guy that was doing that personally. I was involved with that. And we got majority of the Senate to sign off to say we will come back for a 2-day session and we will address property taxes. We had a solution for property taxes that I think is a good solution, and that is a 0.75% sales tax statewide to go to education. If we were to raise that 73.25% sales tax on everybody in Kansas, that money could be used and we would reduce the 20 mills on our K through 12. And I have enough to raise interest to get a special session called, but we could not get anybody in the House to agree to call a special session to even ask for a vote on a special session. So, but we're not done. We're not done. This 0.75% sales tax, it makes a big difference to you in your property taxes. And I don't have the exact numbers with me today, but I'll try to do it from memory. But if you say your house, we use a $300,000 house, that will save you on your property taxes close to $600 a year. $600 a year. To be able to take that $600 a year and say, well, you're going to cost me though in sales tax, you better be spending $60,000 a year in sales tax purchases just to break even, or just to make up for that savings that you get from your property tax. So I think it's a good deal. Besides, you are the one that controls the spending on the sales tax. If you don't want to spend it, you don't have to spend it. If you go out and buy a new car, you know you're going to spend X number of dollars in sales tax. So that's your choice. But that would reduce property taxes by 20 mils across the state. It wouldn't be for K through 12 anymore. All that 20 mills would go away. There was a couple other ones in there that, one thing that we'll talk about, maybe we'll see if you guys agree with it or not. The only way that we're going to get, and this is for our county, for people who run for county commission and city council, the only way that we can reduce property taxes, we being the state, is to reduce the county and the city's costs. Because they're going to spend every dollar they get back. I mean, they're going to spend it in tax. It's coming in, it's going out. You've got raises, you've got everything else. So the only way we can do that is reduce costs. So what do we have in costs sitting there in our counties? Well, we have a department called the appraisal department. And guess what? If you look at it, we've got 700 people plus in the state working in the counties on property appraisals. 700. Well, why do we need to have an appraisal every year? Why did they have to go out and appraise your property this year, and next year go back and do it again? Oh, it's 9% more. Okay, that's it. That's really the reason they were doing it. But what if we would say, no, you only need to do that every 3 years. So, and for 3 years, your property taxes stays the same, your appraisal. What would that do at the county level? Well, you could get rid of a third of employees in the appraisal department. But let's even do it better. Why do we need to do it countywide? Why don't we do this, set it up like we do our state school board, and do it in 10 districts? Each district will handle about 300,000 people. So, Wichita has 450,000 people. They do it with 70 employees. We could do it in these 10 districts with about the same number. But you know, when you consolidate those to 10 districts throughout the state, that brings those numbers down. There's duplication of effort inside those agencies. We can reduce the number again there. So we reduce it by going to district appraisers, reduce it again by saying you don't have to appraise them once every 3 years. And one that gives you some stability in your property taxes, gives you some stability, gives our county commissioners, they know what their mill levy is going to be. They know what their appraised value is going to be, approximately, because they know what the number was last year. They know it's the same number this year, unless there's circumstances where they indulge addition on or something like that, or they bulldoze the building down. But other than that, you get stability in your appraisal, and it gives the people 3 years to say, okay, I know what my property tax is going to be, and they can budget for that. But we take that one more step further. And that further is, why do we need to pay property tax on our vehicles every year? When we buy that tag, why do we need a tag every year? Get a new tag, get a new sticker. Get a sticker, it costs you $1,000 when you have a new car. That sticker costs you $1,000 to put on every year. Why do we need to do that? And why does a tag in Sumner County cost more than the one up in Burlington? What's in Burlington? Anybody know? How about a nuclear facility? Wolf Creek. What happens up there? You know that a car in Cali and Sumner County that's registered here, and the same car where Wolf Creek is about a third less or even half less up there. Why is that? Well, because they have a valuation paid by Wolf Creek. But what would happen if we pull that back in to these 10 districts? You can register online, do everything online. We don't need to be going to the county. We're not on horses. We don't have to ride back into the county courthouse on a horse to be back at the same house in a day. We're past that. I closed on a piece of property in Missouri and never set foot in Missouri. I did it all electronic, signed every document electronically. you don't need to go to the county courthouse to do that type of business. So if we combine those, again, there's duplication of effort. We could reduce the cost of your tax. We just passed a bill, I forget where it is, authorizing up to $10 more for our motor vehicle department in our counties because it's costing them more money than they're making to issue the state's tags. Why? You know how many tags we issued 1 month last year? 88,000 tags. I don't think there's that many vehicles being bought. What it is special tags. Special tags. So, if we could do those things, we take those responsibilities out of our counties and take them like statewide, we could reduce the mill levy, we could reduce the cost, and then if we could also do the sales tax, then we could reduce that mill levy off of education. So that was the proposal that we were going to give at special session. It's not over by a long ways. I got a majority of votes in the Senate right now to do that. And I will be issuing that bill when we go back in. By the way, another thing I'm going to do in that bill. How about we elect the guy that's giving you the appraisal? Right now, he's appointed. He's appointed, and he answers to no one. I was embarrassed when I went to the Sumner County meeting about 4 or 5 months ago, and the appraiser was there, and he talked down to a business owner in Sumner County so bad. He admitted he made a mistake, but he said, I can't change it, and you can't make me change it. He said that in the meeting.
Yeah, it needs to change.
And so he's appointed to that position. And if you fire him, county commissioners, you're going to pay his salary for up to 4 years. There was an appraiser that was in Cali County. One of my first years up there, I was sitting in the tax committee, and all of a sudden, on my phone, I get this message that says, look at this. And it was 100 people protesting their taxes in Cali County. Guess what? I showed that to the property valuation board member. I said, you better get somebody down there. 2 days later, they had him down there. 3 days later, he was fired. But he got paid his salary. That was his 3rd appraisal job. He's on his 5th appraisal job, and I'm still working today in here. And so that needs to change. But the appraisals are out of control. There's no reason for them to go completely sky high. And as far as the senior citizen group, you can get if you were in a tax bracket of $56,000 or less, you can freeze your taxes today. There's a method to do that. Bill's already been passed. Senior savers are
Senior Saver Act, yeah, but most people are above that.
I understand.
And then I was going to ask you about also the most important vote that they're going to take during this next primary session. What's the most important vote?
Red Roth?
Well, no, fine. The most important vote you're going to take, I believe, is it in the
August. It's in August.
August, yeah.
It is the vote for you to have a right to vote on your Supreme Court justices.
Yes.
And that is August 4th.
Yes.
Vote yes.
Really important. We need to tell all of your friends. You need to tell 50 of your friends. You need to make sure you get out and vote because historically there's not going to be a big turnout for the primary.
But I think we need to make sure that's the most important vote you're going to take. Right now, there's a group of about 7 made up of attorneys, basically out of Wichita. They nominate 3 to the governor. The governor then picks one of those 3. And then there's no Senate confirmation. They're in. There was a judge when I was first up there, can't remember his name and don't need to spell it out anyway. But there's a judge that if he was nominated for Supreme Court Justice by the governor, he would be a Supreme Court Justice today. He was nominated for appellate court. Because the appellate court has to go before Senate confirmation, they looked into his background. He was disqualified. He had done some things that in the county that were close to illegal, and he would not have ever been able to serve, and hasn't been able to serve on the bench since. But he could have been a Supreme Court justice under the situation that we have now. So your most important vote you have is go out there August 4th, vote yes, and get that out. I'd put that on every piece of paper out there. You've got to put it on every Facebook, anything. Vote yes is number one. Get the people out to vote. You guys did a great job over here in Sumner County on getting the people out to vote on a couple other issues. We've got to do it here. Yeah.
Question, on the 3-year appraisals, I get that, but you could also just do a third of the appraisals every year. So instead of doing all of the county,
Sure.
and then you're
Sure,
spreading out.
that's when
It's still,
you don't take these, like Dr. Music Cali, for example, he has 7 appraisals, and they take one every year. Well, we can look at those, and they could reduce it so that the workload would be less, but they can reduce it every 3 years.
it'll
So-
still be appraised for 3 years, but you're working on
Right, so you rotate it and go through that. That's certainly a way to do that. That's something I think that is necessary to do because of the processes we have now. And to be honest with you, here's the other problem I found out, and I'm not sure it's true, but we'll tell you anyway. Right now, let's assume you have a $100,000 house in here, in Oxford. That $100,000 house appraisal is then multiplied by 11.5%. That 11.5% then becomes your assessed valuation. Your assessed valuation is then multiplied by your mill levy, who is set by your county commissioners, school districts, your fire departments, all these people put a mill levy on. That total mill levy then is multiplied by your assessed valuation. That becomes what you pay in your taxes, right? What I found out, and this is the house members, you might have to ask your house members. I found out the reason they don't want to negotiate with us is they're concerned about the farm bill. How it is calculated. And it is too complicated for me to explain. It's a 7-year average, or it's a rolling average of the 7-year average. Okay, and you explain that on the board when you knock it. But the real truth is, they are only multiplied by 4%. So if they've got a $100,000 home, their multiplier is 4% to become their assessed valuation because they're in farm. That was the way it was explained to me. And so they don't want to touch that, and some of the groups are not going that. We weren't touching that. We weren't going to touch that. So I want to do away with that portion of it. I think the negotiation team on both the House and Senate needs to change, get some people in there that they've been at it for 3 years, and we're still at the same place. And we're not doing what we need to do for the people, and reduce costs. Yes.
Yeah, so as a residential homeowner, I'm definitely past 65. I cannot freeze my property taxes because the appraiser makes sure that the value of my property exceeds the limit that you can't exceed in order to freeze your taxes. What's up with that?
I think it's
Wealth tax or something? Pardon?
It's 350,000. So limit.
Yeah, that's the limit.
Why? Why is that?
That's just the number they chose.
Why did they choose it? They want to, pick on the more wealthy members of society, work hard all your life, save your money, make sure you keep your investments in good shape, so I become a target, right?
Okay, so I'm going to, one other little tidbit in the negotiations with property taxes, your valuation has been going up. In, I think, last 12 years, mine's went up 60%. 60%. So what happened in 2020? We had COVID. A boatload of money come in, and we got to be spending that money. And all of a sudden, that money flows shut off. We keep spending the money like drunken sailors, I think that was. And all of a sudden, we're up here, we need to raise more money. We need to raise more money. So, in one of the bills that we have passed out the Senate multiple times, and the House has not passed this yet, they won't even bring it up, was to set the appraised value not at the 26 level, but bring it back down to the 2022 level. And that's your appraised value right when COVID ended, before the big rise in mill levy, not mill levy, appraised value started. So it was to bring that back, and it's still in the bill, it's still sitting there, and it's still going to be submitted. But 22 level would be a 41% reduction in property tax valuation, from at least in Cali County, if we went back to the 22 level compared to the 26 level.
And like I said, I believe that I think Representative Rowley would agree with me too. There's going to be a big change in the House. The House is going to have new leadership, set a new direction. So it is all going to be different, and who you send up to represent you is significantly important, so that we can keep on this trajectory that we are. You know, what I've discovered in my 2 sessions, which is 4 years, is that sometimes it takes a bill 2 or 3 sessions to get through before it's actually becomes signed off on. And so you just have to keep plugging away at it and keep working at it. And I think we work. My opinion is that the House and Senate, represented by Senator Alley and myself and Representative Rowley, I think we work well together. I know there was the budget thing going through, and I'm not going to, whatever it was, we won't talk about it or whatever it was, but there was something, and I saw that, and I texted Larry, and Larry is on the budget in the Senate, and they're getting shut down. And so it was a really good deal. It was taking money away from the arts, which I believe in the arts. Of course, I'm kind of artsy, playing piano and trumpet and stuff like that, you know. And I think music is good for children, and music is good for life. And so, but money was taken away from that. And so anyway, but we work together. When we see stuff going on, things in bills or something like that, hey, did you hear about this? Yes or no? And we work together. So anyway.
So if you were to implement the 2 systems together, where you mentioned the no appraisals but every 3 years, and the cap of 3%, would that mean a 9% jump in a single year? Like at the year where you get your appraisal, would that 3-year, the 3% yearly cap end up being a 9% jump in a single year possibility?
My plan did not include the 3% cap.
Did not. Okay, that was something that did.
That was the other one that didn't make it through.
Didn't make it through.
That's
Okay.
still in negotiation on it, but my plan did. And the reason that the cap, and I can go through. I've got it right in here. But if you look, and I went back and charted my appraised values from 2011 to today, and basically it went up 2.5%. So the 3% cap is in the right number.
Yeah.
But one year it would be 0. Next year it went up 6. Next year it would be 0. Next year it went up 8 or 9. And so it's all over the board. I'm just saying, we'll put the pressure, I should say the pressure, but I'm going to put the pressure on the guys wearing the hats in here that are running for county commission. And here's what it is. You have to have the courage to say, this is how much we need to spend, and this is how much we have to raise taxes or lower taxes to make it work. And if you, that appraised value is nothing but part of a formula. It means nothing. It's multiplied by the mill levy, and the mill levy then becomes what you're going to charge this property owner for tax. So if that appraised value is way up here, what the thought process is that if you've got a high appraised value, you lower that back down. That's the reason the rate revenue, or what is it? What was it?
Revenue neutral.
Yeah, the revenue neutral, that's what that means. Okay, if your appraised value goes way up, then you're gonna lower the mill levy and keep the revenue the same. That's what revenue neutral was intent. It hasn't really worked that way. It hasn't worked that way. And so those types of things need to be looked at again, and we will look at it again. So,
I think we've done well here tonight, and we want to give time for the other folks, yes, if we got this for an hour.
any last questions? Oh, wait, there's one. Yes.
Senator Ellie, you mentioned 75% state sales tax could reduce property taxes. How would you keep the schools from raising their property taxes anyway? Would there be something to keep that from happening?
Well, the schools can't raise that 20 mil levy today. What we would do, I believe, well, let's just tell you the whole story behind that. Anyway, next year, your school formula is going to be rewritten. It's time to be rewritten. We have a high enrollment weighting. We have a low enrollment weighting. We have the weighting for the at-risk children. We have a weighting for special ed. We have a whole herd of weightings. It's very complicated, and it's meant to be complicated. We need to simplify it. I believe that, well, I'm going to go back on my horse again, but our community colleges, we have in our school system today, you can send your juniors and seniors to Cali, you can send them to Butler, you can send them to every community college and get college credit for your juniors and seniors, right? The schools, our schools, your schools right here, get a full FTE for that student. One full FTE. Well, guess what? The college also gets paid for that student. Why should we pay twice? Why should we pay twice? How much is that, by the way? You know? Some estimates, $180 million. $180 million. I mean, it's been in the legislative post audit. They've done an audit on it. But it's in the formula, that's the way it's going to continue in the formula. This is the year we change the formula. I'll give you another one just so we're going. SNAP benefits. That's the
Farm bill.
BCF. They don't want to give their SNAP benefit qualifications to anybody. They won't release them to the Attorney General. The attorney for the DCF said in our coach meeting, in our government efficiency meeting, I will not release those documents to the Attorney General's office. Although it says in law that he must. Well, there's now a new law that says he will because of his statements. But anyway, they said in there that our school districts only audit 3% of our at-risk children to see if they qualify. The people at DCF with the SNAP said we could have people, probably 30 to 40% don't qualify, but they're in there anyway, and so we're paying for them anyway. 30 to 40% of our SNAP recipients don't qualify, according to them. billion is $150 million. I'm not saying it's fraud, but what I'm saying is they're abusing the system.
Sure smells like it.
Minnesota?
Yeah.
But we are abusing the system. And there's where if we're not spending, we're overspending. If we could just get our fraud under control, if we could just get our fraud under control, we're back on budget. We're back on budget. There's a lot of things like that are out there. We're trying to get our hands around. Several years ago, unemployment fraud, we were number one in the nation in unemployment fraud in Kansas. $800 million. So you got, and and where'd that money go? Who knows? Went overseas. A lot of it. So I believe the money's there. I want to go after the abuse. I want to go after and make sure we pay what we're supposed to be paying. But let's bring that money back in and use it for what we should be using it for. Let's educate our children. Let's put the money in the classroom, not in things we shouldn't be putting in.
Mary, how many seniors graduate every year in Kansas? You
Not enough.
You got a number?
I don't know. I really don't got a number.
Well, you said 48% of them second home.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a big number. And they're not going to college. They're not in the military. Not going to the military. They're not looking for a job. They may be looking for a job, but they're not going out and pursuing one.
Google my search on
Yeah,
it.
you'll find some for us.
When,
But it's a big number.
when does the bill go into effect, and what's the punishments for schools that allow kids to have cell phones?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Cell phones.
When does
It
that,
goes into effect January, next year.
okay, and then what's the punishment for violation? Is there?
They won't be able to have a cell phone in school. Right now, when they walk in the door, the cell phone goes in a bag, it goes in a box, it goes in their locker, and
You might be surprised that they didn't buy with it.
I understand, but also 36,000 high school graduates, 18,000 are set at home. I didn't know this also until I read my report here. That includes earbuds, that includes watches. Your watches, you can have a cell phone with your watch. You can get
Digital
messages from
devices.
that. So watches have to be in, no earbuds, no cell phones.
Tablets.
Bell, no cell.
Yeah.
Other schools have done it already. I know several schools have already done it. They're having no problems with it. It increases attention. It makes sure the kids aren't being harassed. The biggest harassment is cell phones. Kids sending messages, Facebook or whatever they use nowadays. That's the biggest part of the harassment. And so let's cut that out. Let's go back to education. Expect excellence in our schools.
Now, is that students only, or does that include the faculty too?
Students only.
It ought to include the faculty too.
One of the reasons, I questioned that too. I questioned why.
To me, what's good for the goose is good for the gander.
Except the person responsible for your student is the teacher in the classroom. If there's some message has to go out to all of them, they go message that. That's a problem.
That's the safety part.
It's a safety issue. I know when he was going to school and I was going to school, we didn't get to use our cell phone.
Yeah.
And even if they had them back then, even if the teachers had them, they wouldn't allow them to use them either.
All right, well, thank you very much and appreciate your time this evening. We will be around if you have any questions. We'll turn this over to David.
Howdy, lady. There you go.
Larry and Nancy may have to address this too, but part of the problem with property tax is a local issue. State can only deal with so much, so that's part of the problem. And the county commissioners get all these budgets and they have to say yes or no in the process, and it's a long process, but that's where the local money goes mostly on the property
city, so I'm gonna have to go, but it's good to see everybody. Thank you so much.
And if you're not, on their emails, it's easy to get on there and
It's
they can send us stuff.
And get on Glenn's email. He's the Sumner County chairman, so he can keep you informed of what we're doing, when we're doing, and how we're doing it. So,
Well, safe trip.
thank you very much.
Anyway, sorry, I missed it. You're fine.
So Shane, do you want to address the group? Since you're-
Yeah. So I'm Shane Plant, I'm running for Commissioner District 1. As of right now, I'm unopposed, I am opposed. So I have to get down and dirty and start campaigning more and meeting more people. We've done quite a few in my district around Commerce Springs, the rural areas, meeting a lot of people. And one of the things that everybody has said has been taxes. My personal taxes for our house has tripled in the last 4 years. One of the reasons why I'm running is to figure out where our money is going. I'm not the only one who has increases. Everybody in this room has had their property tax increase. One of the things that I'm seeing is I can't pinpoint at this point from the outside where our money is being spent. I can tell you that I have done some research. I think we have some people in positions that should not be there. Our tax assessor, from what our representatives have stated, that's our biggest problem that I'm seeing right now. We have to make up for $11 million lawsuit because they assessed the casino law. Casino has more money than we do to fight it. When we go in and meet with this assessor, which I have 3 out of 4 years, we're told, just like they stated a few minutes ago, we're told that the comparables are what our prices are. Well, the comparables were 15 miles away, 20 miles away, 30 miles away. It's not fair in what they're doing. So a cap, which I know yours did not have a cap, I don't know that would really work. And the reason why is because if me and Steve get in and we see that our money is not being abused and we actually have to have that money, well then how do we address it where we don't raise taxes or assess value? Or do we need to increase taxes but not the assessed value? That's above my head right now until we get all the information. I'm not going to sit here and tell any of you that we're going to lower taxes because when has a politician ever come through with lowering taxes? It just doesn't happen. I am 100% for fiscal responsibility. There's a few things that I have found which I'm going to keep to myself at this point in time until I have 100% solid proof. There's going to be a few people that are going to lose their job within the county. As far as the school, that's above the commissioner's pay grade. They are their own taxing entity. Commissioners have zero control over that. If that is where a lot of our taxes are going, well then each and every one of us have to address the school board, address that position. One thing that I get is no one trusts politicians, period, at all. I will tell you right now, I am a 1-term, possibly 2-term commissioner. That is it. The only reason why I'm running is because the current commissioner, and part of my French, has pissed me off. He made a statement when 16 of us had an issue. His statement was, if you don't like what is going on right now, find like-minded people and vote accordingly. That's why I'm in this position. The fiscal responsibility, I think, is our biggest key at this point when you're trying to get our county under control. A few people who I'm going to trust 100%, has told me that this last week, our new 911 center, which was estimated to be $1 million, there about 6 months ago, is now running almost $2 million. How can we be that far off? Now, our commissioners are a part-time position. Quite honestly, at this point in time, with the people who we have in there, all they're doing is showing up for an hour and a half, 2 hours, doing what they have to do, and moving on. They've kind of gotten accustomed to how our county runs for the last 20, 30 years. If we want change, we have to bring new people in. We need to have fresh ideas. Am I the person for the job? I can tell you that I feel I am, but I am an acquired taste. Some people like me, some people do not like me. I am going to piss off half the people, but I can assure you that although I'm long-winded right now, I think our commissioners need to start talking less and listening more. You guys as a community, not too long ago, went in front of the commissioners to fight a battery storage. The only reason I truly believe that that was denied is because of all the people who showed up. Right now, and I know I'm on camera, anybody who has talked to me before, Mr. Glenn, about the only one in here, and Steve, my stance is I will not vote for one more windmill, period, at all. Battery storage is even more of a concern than the windmills. And data centers, I know that there's a moratorium now, I believe, nationwide. Why is that? There's something that we're not being told, and maybe that's just me being a conspiracy theorist, but why is there a moratorium nationwide? We need to... What's that?
That's battery.
That's better.
That's the data centers have batteries in them also.
So if I misspoke there, I misspoke, but the deal I seen this morning was the data center. Yeah. Anything green energy that has to be subsidized is not a good fit for our county, especially when we do not see the benefits. Now, me and Steve had sat down a few weeks ago, and he asked me a question about if I would vote yes for solar on a local level. I personally do not like solar. I do not believe that it is a benefit at this point in time. I am very pro-oil. However, if it was something that would benefit our constituents, and there was a plan, and there was not people against it, I would consider it, but I would have to look at everything, listen to all of our constituents. I don't see that happening. What I see is an out-of-state company coming in, taking our resources. Now, yes, I will tell you, the commissioners know more than what we know as far as how much money it's generating for our county. They may have had to make that to make up some money. But if they were upfront and told residents that, hey, this is what's coming up, not having individuals have to go to the meeting, there might have not have been 109 windmills or whatever there is here, because people could have spoke up. I see that there's a lot of hidden projects going on. One of the things that I want to do is update the website to anybody can go on, and there will be a section in there where you can read previous meeting minutes and future ones, but we need to stick to that to where if NextEra or another company wants to come in, these are the dates that we're going to address it, not wait till no one's in the meeting and bring it through. I'm not saying that that has happened, but it's weird how NextEra at that point in time, they would just show up. So it might be a lack of trust because of how we've been treated by the current commissioners. Other than that, I will be around for some questions. If you have, I'll pass it on to Steve at this point and let him do his speech.
Well, I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I think most of you already know me. I'm strongly conservative. I'm pro-Second Amendment. I'm pro-life. I've been a conservative all my life. And I'm running because the current commissioners are not doing their job. Our county's dying. Our taxes are too high, and the commissioners are not making any active attempt to correct the problems. They talk about how to save taxes here and there, but they don't do anything. Our problem isn't just that our property taxes are too high and our taxes are too high. That's the painful part that we see, but that's the symptom of the problem. The problem is that our county and Kansas is in a decline because we don't have new business. We don't have new economic growth. We need to find ways to make ourselves more attractive to outside business, to bring jobs to the county and bring more economic growth to the county. That's the surest way to turn around the tax problem. A broader tax base brings in more taxes. So, Mr. Alley is a hard act to follow. He brought up all of my good talking points. So, what he told us about he's doing for the state is going to help us tremendously. And what we need to do for a local government is expound on those things that he talked about and attract more business, try to lower our taxes, get more economic growth, and that will reverse the problems we have. There's a organization that has a website, Kansas Policy Institute. They have all the statistics and data that you would want to see on the issues that Larry talked about. And I know this is pretty small for everybody to see, but this graph shows the mill levy in orange, the line on the bottom. It shows the average inflation increase, which is the green line in the center. And then it shows our property tax increases as the blue line on top. You can see that the mill levy is fairly level. The population decline is the bottom line, and the mill levy doesn't go up nearly as fast as the cost of inflation or the cost of our property taxes. Our property taxes are going up almost twice as fast as inflation. That can't continue. It's a death spiral. You know, our county will dry up and blow away. We have to get new business. We have to reduce the size and the cost of government. And we have to turn that around so that costs come down and income and people start coming back. And that's the only way we can grow our way out of this this spiral we're in now. Larry had some very good ideas, and there'll be a great start at the state level. At the county level, we're going to need to shrink government. We're going to have to limit or totally eliminate discretionary spending. And we're going to have to attract economic growth. We're going to have to figure out how to do it, because our county depends on it. We have Boeing coming in with a pledge for money, and we have some local businesses, GKN and Triumph, and we have some local businesses that build sub-tier parts for Boeing. We need to get a piece of that business. We need to get some of that money and get some of those jobs. So one thing I want to do as a commissioner is I want to energize the economic development department and get them to go after some of them jobs. Talk to these companies and find out what we need to do to get some of those jobs. I wanted to talk just a minute about a story that relates to what Larry Alley told us about property tax appraisers. Tyler White, our appraiser, was hired by resolution, and he's under a contract for 4 years, but we do have a clause in that contract that says that he can be fired for cause. The county attorney advised that we can't tell him how to do his job, but we can evaluate his job performance, and we can tell him what we expect for job performance. I was in a commissioner's meeting 2 weeks ago, and a citizen came in there to complain about his property tax increase. His taxes went up 66% 1 year, and Tyler White was in there to respond to that, and he said that he had been told by a neighbor that the guy remodeled inside the house. Well, he sent an appraiser out to look at the inside of the house, and the landowner refused, which was his prerogative. That's his right. So out of spite, Tyler White raised his taxes, or his appraisal, 66%, based on what a neighbor said. And that's not the kind of performance that we want our appraisers making. So I don't know what the outcome of that's going to be. It's being contested. It's going to the state board. But we need to, the problem that bothers me, and Larry is 100% correct. The problem is that these appraisers are hired by boards and they're not electable. If they answered to the public, if they were elected, they wouldn't behave like this. We need to do that. We need to get that changed. I just wanted to mention that the county website has all past meeting minutes on it. They're usually 2 weeks late when they show up on there, but you can go in and look at Debbie's minutes that she writes. And you can apply for the agenda to see the agenda for future. There's a lot of information on the website about resolutions and all past business, and it's kept for 6 or 8 years on there, so you can go back and see all that. That's available. Well, like I say,
show up and pay attention.
And if you want to prepare for that too, all of the past budgets are available online at the county website, and they have a breakdown of the mills for everybody that has an input into the mill levy. Cemeteries, schools, townships, everything. It's all on there, and you can go look at it for last year, on back 6 or 8 years. So if you look at that and get familiar with it, you know how much everybody's getting. And Clint and I might take a look at that sometime and decide what's excess, what we need to trim. It looked like there was a little fat.
There is, and once one of us gets in the office or both, that's where we're going to see where the fat actually is at. Looking at numbers, that's great. Not in an elected position. I mean, we could say, yeah, this is fat. There's things that we're not going to know. But once we're in,
departments to cut their budget.
once we're in, then we can see, okay, this does not make sense, and this is what we can analyze it.
And another way that we can save money is, there are a lot of employees that sit around for part of a day doing nothing, and we've got 2 or 3 employees in the same office. We could do some cross-training and reduce the number of employees, and get 1 employee that can do 3 different jobs, and then you don't need 3 employees, you only need 1.
I've got a question for you. Sure. Attended the groundbreaking for your Chisholm Trail gas-fired plant.
Yep.
And it's very interesting. It's going to be a big advantage for this area. It's going to bring the needed jobs for this area. It's a 3-year project, basically. It comes online, I think, in 2030.
Yeah.
But when I was driving home, I got to thinking, I said, wonder what the people of Burlington thought when Wolf Creek broke ground. And then they see what happened in the next 10 years to their property taxes. Because the valuation of Wolf Creek, the valuation went high and their property taxes went down. That's the reason the pickup truck in Cali County cost $1,800, in that county cost $600 in property taxes. Because the mill levy is so low, because they have a big valuation, Wolf Creek. Do we know, and if you're running for office here, do we know what the valuation agreement is with Effigy, and how much property taxes they will pay, and how that is distributed among the counties? See, my understanding is they have to share the property tax valuation with the 3 surrounding counties. And I don't know any more than that. That's what I was told. But if you're running for if you're going to be in that position, we ought to know what that plan is for the property tax. What's that valuation going to do to the property tax valuation in Sumner County, and how much more revenue are we talking about in 2030 when it comes online? And then maybe we need to start planning our budgets, looking at that as a budget. I mean, you're 4 years down the line, it's not that far away.
Yes.
And when you look at that, though, how much is that going to bring to the county? How much is that going to pay off? The other thing, you talk about windmills, and I know nobody likes what's happened because they're not paying property taxes. And they've been given a moratorium for 10 years. But that 10 years is up for the first ones that went in. They're up this year. They are now going to be taxed on property taxes. So the first ones that went in 10 years ago, in 2015, are coming online. They're coming on our property tax rolls. So we need to know what that is. If you have a wind farm that's in this area that was put in 10 years ago, they should be coming online. They should be bringing property tax revenue to our counties.
That's the ones that are leaking and the blades are falling off, right? The ones that you put in 10 years ago, just drive down and look at them. Got a wheel running down,
And I think that's what
how long they gonna last?
Yep.
our constituents have issues with our local commissioners. I don't know that they looked at that, all they seen was dollar signs. But when you go down here and any neighbor within a half mile, you hear them. You have to see them. A lot of them did not want them. And I understand what you're saying, and I agree, especially with the gas plant. We need to bring money in, just like you were saying. But I don't think being tax-free for property tax for 10 years is the right decision, and hope that we're gonna be okay with it.
No, I'm not saying to hope, I'm saying plan for, they're coming online now, that valuation is going to be in your county.
Well, unfortunately for our people, I'm not disagreeing with your concept, but what I'm saying is the people around here, from here to Belle Plaine, for the next 10 years, if that's correct,
Yes.
we have to look at them, we have to hear them. After 10 years, they're gonna be falling apart, potentially, if they don't take care of them. We get no energy. So hopefully in 10 years, we get some money from them for the property value.
There is payment in lieu, and I'm not sure that amount, but it's not, they're not paying nothing at this point. They're paying some. So I don't know how that equals with what in 10 years property, on the property tax total. It's not gonna be from 0 to enough to 100%. I think it's probably in the middle or closer. So
That's all
there is-
great, but we're not seeing the benefits. So
Well,
now,
one of my ideas, it's too late for the existing pipeline, but for new people that want to come in, like data center or battery energy storage, for us to even consider looking at letting them in, we need something up front from them, something substantial. We need a new fire station and a new fire truck. We need a new rural EMS location. We need something substantial right up front. Not tax deferred for 10 years. We need something substantial that benefits the people. And I am not for tax deferment contracts with them. I say let them pay taxes like everybody else. I mean, that's supposed to be an incentive to bring people in, and we really don't care if they come in or not. In fact, I prefer they don't, but if they want to come here that bad, they need to pay it up front. These are huge corporations with billions of dollars. They won't bat an eye at building a fire department or a
Yes.
EMS.
Well, they offered to buy us a fire truck. Isn't that right, Paul?
yeah, for fire, you can't put out.
So,
And then you sold out your landscape.
I'm
So you
kind of
ruined
trying
Kansas.
to see, so, are both of you running for District 1?
I'm running for District 1.
Which,
I'm running for District 3.
okay, and Oxford is
District 3.
District,
He'll be up against Cooney.
Yeah,
so you were Steve, last name?
Steve Ritchie.
Richie,
He's leaving, Richie.
Richie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, districts. Just tell them.
What towns are you representing that is?
From Belle Plaine, Conway Springs, northern portion of
He's from the south.
Where do you live?
I actually live on Oxford Road, a few miles from New York. I'm only a mile inside the county line, I'm a mile from Gouda Springs. So I'll have the south end of Mulvaney Yeah,
South
I live
Haven.
on the east side of Arlington.
South Haven and Honeywell. Yeah,
And all of Oxford.
and Oxford.
So part of the whole problem, we're trying to kind of wind this down tonight, that our taxes are, it's kind of like Farm Bureau has talked about, it's a three-legged stool. Property taxes, sales taxes, and income tax. And then we also have, at the state, there's fees. So we don't want to cut one leg off of the stool, and then the other two legs have to support the other two. So that's part of the problem. So we can go into that. Yeah, we've got to have all three.
No, not all three.
Well,
Make that stool shorter.
that'd be a good way to do it. Make the stool shorter, but we still have to have schools, roads.
But we have to get more for what we're paying for, and we're not seeing that. We're getting less. That's the aggravation. I wouldn't mind paying $4,000 in property tax if our school was turning out Rhodes Scholars.
Yeah.
Shall be, right? It's supposed to.
So, yeah, that's why we work with the people that we elect and make a relationship, one form or another, and honey works better than vinegar. So that's kind of and Larry and I have a good relationship through the years, and they also know that if we have an issue, then we can sit down and talk about it without pounding on the table. Years ago, we had the zoning situation. How many years ago was that, Jared? Probably 20? No, it's been longer than that.
Probably 20, maybe a little longer.
Probably 25. And we had a group that together, they were trying to zone some situations on and what people call blight and all that situation. My dad and several other people from around Wellington said, let's work together. So they worked together. We went to the zoning board. We also went to the county commission. And we also had some hotheads come in the group. And they basically tried to ruin it. But the main focus of that group was let's work together. What solutions? Let's have some solutions, not just we have a problem. So what's the solutions? And that's where we are today. We need solutions. So, and both local, township, county, state, and then federal. So we're all in our world together, and we've got to work together. So that's kind of where we're at. So.
You candidates for commission, make sure that the planning commission maybe is online too, because that's kind of where, like, the windmills would have started. Maybe not so much in the commission office, but so we need to have open information from the planning commission and zoning boards.
Well, the planning is, as I understand it, planning has a thick book of regulations.
Yeah.
So if someone comes, say, they want to do a Crayola company. So they have criteria what a business can come into, and they say, yes, this meets that criteria or not. And then they pass on the recommendations. It's not a vote yes or no, it's a recommendation. In our county, the way it's set up, other counties are a little different, depending on the regulations. And then the county commissioners, then they take those recommendations, and they also get input from the Crayola company and the ones that have the dyes for the crayons, and all the information comes to them, and then they make a decision, yes or no. So that's kind of where the system is. I'm still learning too. I never heard this in government, so. Thank you, Terry. So any other questions? You're more than welcome to visit too, either now or later. We are planning sometime after the primary to have a candidate forum through Farm Bureau, they'll be open to both Republicans and Democrats, and so you can listen to your, we haven't set the time yet, yes, Larry?
We also want to invite all of Sumner County over. We're having the candidates for governor come down again. And that'll be June 13th. Yeah, June 13th at the picnic. And so we want you to come down and you're welcome to come over. There'll be fried chicken and I don't know what else on the meal is, but we'll have the candidates for governor and some of the other statewide candidates will be down. And you can visit with them down there. So that'll be probably your last one in this area that they'll all be there.
And where is that?
It'll be at the fairgrounds.
Winfield, okay. Are they good?
I don't know. I don't have it with me, but I'm thinking it's probably 5:30, 6 o'clock.
It starts at 5.
5, okay, good. Thank you.
Saturday night, right?
Yeah.
Any other announcements? Thank you for all coming, and we're all in the process. If you have any questions, I am the Sumner County Farm Bureau Coordinator, and we work with advocacy. So that's kind of my area a little bit, so if you have any questions, I can try to answer them, or I know people that can answer them for you, so. Thank you for coming.